The police administration has been urged to, as a matter of urgency, trace and recover 9 missing firearms taken from its custody. This is contained in the Auditor General's report covering the period 2011. The police hierarchy, together with the Deputy Interior Minister, assisted the Public Accounts Committee today to look into the report. My colleague Elton Bobe was at the sitting and joins me now on the line with details. Elton, what was the response of the IGP on the missing firearms?
Well, the issue was not discussed publicly because of the security implications involved in this. So the IGP rather brought forth a written response regarding the audit query raised by the Auditor General. The Auditor General pointed out that in their auditing of the Ghana Police Service, they uncovered 9 missing firearms, and their recommendation is that the police should trace the whereabouts of the affected personnel to retrieve the arms for safekeeping in the armory. They also advised that management should strengthen its supervision over the armory in order to prevent such occurrence in the future. Now, the written response by the IGP says that following the audit observation, measures were put in place to locate the whereabouts of the weapons. Now, among such measures were a thorough search at all police armories in Accra and Tema. Contacts were also made with units that handle unserviceable weapons within the Ghana Police Service. They also undertook forensic laboratory where weapons related with crime are sent for testing. Now, the measures, according to the IGP, yielded the following results. Now, 5 of the alleged missing weapons, according to the IGP, were located at various armories in Accra and 1 at a crime laboratory pending testing. And they include 3 pieces of AK-47 rifle and 2 pieces of pistol. And then the remaining 4, according to the written response, have been located within the Armed Police Unit, that's FPU, formerly called Armed Car Squadron, and reference or an evidence to back this claim was presented to the Public Accounts Committee as evidence that they've taken steps to recover these weapons. It is now up to the Auditor General to verify the claims by the police and then correct its reports or its audits concern raised against the Ghana Police Service.
All right, Elton. Now, we know there was another issue that was raised today about the IGP promising sanctions against station officers who do not provide the right information, which leads to some wrongful prosecutions. Tell us a bit more about that. What case in particular led to this call by the IGP?
Well, this is the Osino police station in the eastern region. In the words of the Auditor General, they've titled it Wrong Information on Crime Cases Reported to District Headquarters. Now, in the protocol relating to prosecution of crime by the Ghana Police Service, usually the districts will forward the docket and advice on it to the legal department of the Ghana Police Service, and they will detail somebody to ensure smooth prosecution. Now, in the findings of the Auditor General, they came to the conclusion that figures provided by the station, that the Osino police station, were at variance with the actual figures recorded. And then their advice that the police should properly ensure that this is done in combating crime. And as I recommended that the station officer should review the 2011 intelligence report and also ensure that accurate figures on crime were always submitted to the district police headquarters for appropriate action. The response from the IGP was that the police administration has taken very serious note of the recommendation or of the finding by the Auditor General, and has therefore instructed that station officers should cross-check relevant service documents, record before submission of data. The service has also initiated a training program to educate all cases officers on how to report on crime statistics. Indeed, the IGP says that he is following up to sanction the officer response because this could have led to the wrongful prosecution of an individual by virtue of the fact that the facts presented by the district officer would have formed the basis upon which the prosecution would have been sought from the court.
All right, these are the two issues that we know of. Elton, anything else that happened beyond midday that we are not aware of at today's sitting?
Well, today, I'm sure you were aware, yesterday, we reported about an incident in some districts across the country where personnel of the Ghana Water and Sanitation Development Board complained about the intimidation they suffered in the hands of the police in the discharge of the official duties. When they go around to collect water bills, and in so doing, they disconnect water supply to some institutions, especially the police. They are arrested for doing their work. The IGP, this particular question was put before the IGP to respond. The IGP says since he heard the news yesterday, he's been consulting with the officers involved. His explanation or his reason, his explanation before the committee was quite different from what the deputy local government minister told Parliament yesterday. According to the IGP, from information he gathered from his officers suggests that no such arrest took place. But he is not leaving the matter there. He asked PIPs, that is the unit within the police service that look into complaints against police personnel, to investigate this particular matter and then bring forth their report. Because what his officers at the places mentioned are telling him is that no such arrest took place, which contradicts the submission by the deputy local government minister, Emmanuel Ejikumbi, yesterday when he appeared before the committee. So as we is telling the truth, it is a matter that we'll have to, interrogate further. Secondly, issue about whether the police are very much resourced financially and logistically ahead of the 2016 election also came up strongly. The vice chair of the committee, Samuel Atachiam, according to him, even though the Interior Ministry has been located a certain amount of money for its operations in 2016, the police service as an institution are not getting the needed financial support to execute their plans. For that reason, they are really under serious financial crisis.
Okay.
Now, James Agaga, the Deputy Interior Minister, earlier told the committee that indeed they are aware of the financial challenges facing the Ghana police, and as a government, they are doing all they can to resource the police to live up to expectations. But Atasha is warning that an under-resourced police could be a danger ahead of the 2016 elections, and it is something that as a committee they will take it up, invite the Interior Minister, and see how best the police will be able to give all the money that they require, especially in their preparation before, during, and after the 2016
elections. All right. Thank you so much, Elton Bobo, with those details of what happened today at the Public Accounts Committee when the IGP and the Deputy Interior Minister appeared before it. We can now bring you some of the excerpts of what happened today at the sitting.
1999, we have unsafe custody of arms and ammunition in Takwanswai. Maybe, I don't know whether Chairman would say this borders on security and we should let it be.
This one is a stores issue.
Yes.
Protection.
If it is, then I would be very interested. To me, I think I deem this to be one of the most serious infractions because of the fact that these arms can fall into the hands of misfits. What is the position? What have you done about it? What is the position now?
Thank you, Honorable Chairman. When this infraction was brought to our notice, we sent a team around to go and ensure that the proper thing was done. In places where these things were prevalent, we have put in steel boxes which has been cast in concrete as a temporary measure while we look for the money to get properly fortified armories. These are, when we get our arms, they come in fortified steel boxes, which are just like armories. So that's what we are using now. And we've also gone further to ensure that our new stations, and we are doing this in partnership with SNIT and others, to ensure that they measure up to our standards of police stations, that we have a properly built armory, the cells well protected, and etc. And again, to ensure that there is regular inspections, that we don't find this thing recurring, we have even gone to the extent of appointing an Armourer General. We didn't have an Armourer General until the recent past. But now we have appointed an Armourer General whose sole duty is to go around to ensure that our arms and ammunition are stacked according to police specification as stated in our SI, that's service instructions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maybe the last infraction in 2011 has to do with congested exhibit stores. For this one, I think, what is the position now? Because I know, yeah, so long as justice is slow, these exhibits may keep on being there. So what are you doing? What is the position?
Justice is slow, but exhibits that can be disposed of. When we took over, what we did was with drug exhibits, we went and took a court order and then took samples for keeping sake. And then we destroyed. But with some of the exhibits, like vehicles, and with vehicles, we have a place at Suotrum where we have taken all those vehicles to. But with others, like electrical gadgets, until the case is disposed of, we cannot dispose of them.
And the administration has taken very serious note of this. Therefore, all station officers have been instructed across the country to check with relevant service documents and records before submitting data to the center. The service initiated training programs to educate all case officers also on how to report appropriately on such crime statistics. And I can vouch that the situation has tremendously improved. And we have asked the appropriate department, the CID, to ensure that they do regular checks, that we get right information, because this can bring a lot of wrongful actions by the center. Thank you.
So that's an excerpt from today's Public Accounts Committee sitting, where the IGP John Kololo appeared to answer questions of details on the Auditor General's report for his authority in 2011. Now, a former special representative of the UN Secretary General and the coordinator of the UN operations in Libya has asked Ghana to build resilient institutions to prevent conflicts and violence as the country prepares for the November 7 polls. Madam Karen Landringen says people can only act orderly when they believe in institutions that have been set up to address their grievances. She spoke with Beatrice Edu after addressing the 4th Kofi Annan this name I have to go and come back. Hammershold annual lecture at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center in Accra.
Resilient institutions are really at the core of stable societies, and too often we are under such enormous pressure as the UN and partners, especially in peacekeeping, to go in quickly and get out quickly. But rebuilding a society is not a technical fix, and for many years, typically after conflict, those societies remain fragile. So these big UN reviews from last year recognize that it's an ongoing process of addressing fragility, building inclusive societies, and these stable institutions. So one of the very big challenges we are now faced with is for the United Nations and for all partners to be singing from the same song sheet, to have a shared analysis of what needs to be done to help countries stabilize and become less fragile, and then to implement it in concert. Africa is extraordinarily fortunate in having the regional and sub-regional bodies it does. From the AU, whose role and capacity have increased tremendously in the past decade, to ECOWAS, to the East African Community, where I served before in Burundi. And of course, ECOWAS has an extraordinary history with Liberia. The role of ECOWAS in Liberia changed Liberia, and it changed ECOWAS. So we see the possibility for ECOWAS to be even more than it is today, to focus on what it is among its member states that will help keep them stable, what needs to be reinforced. And when we look at cross-border threats today, we have to acknowledge there are serious cross-border threats which countries are facing, from trafficking to terrorism. The ECOWAS member states really have an opportunity to use their membership to focus on these threats as well.
Well, in an interview with Joy News, a former UN senior advisor Professor Balfour Ajimandua, who also spoke at the 4th Kofi Annan Hammershold annual lecture, warned mass joblessness amongst the youth in Ghana could spring up terrorist groups in the country.
Somebody was asking about evidence-based. You take your car and drive on the main streets of Accra and you see troops filing all over the place, either begging or selling all kinds of items. It's a strong indication that our young people do not have jobs to do. But more importantly, if you take a survey of young people who have graduated from our universities over the past 3-4 years, you'll be amazed to find that a sizable majority do not have jobs. Most of them are staying home. I have people like that who come to me all the time. So when young people get restless because they are not being engaged, you can imagine the kinds of things they will begin to imagine for themselves and for their communities and for the country. So there's also a danger that any country that's unable to provide opportunities for its people to be engaged, you are most likely to find such people getting involved in all kinds of anti-social activities, including criminal activities and, at the very extreme, terrorism.
Is the situation that bad in Ghana? I mean, looking at all the security threat alerts that we've received recently, would you say that the situation is so bad people could easily just fall into the hands of any of these terrorists?
I wouldn't say the situation is that bad. I mean, it's bad, but not very, very bad. And I think by and large, the communities, the society, the government as a whole, we are making efforts to engage these young people. But because our economy in terms of industries have been shrinking, job opportunities that are normally created by the private sector are not there. And the government is not in a position to employ everybody. So therefore, I think the government should create an environment that will enable the private sector to expand, because the more they expand, of course, the more hands they will need in the expansion. And that is what employment is all about. So we need to shift focus away from government creating jobs. That's part of our economic difficulties, to really allow the private sector to create the jobs.
So you're talking about entrepreneurship?
Of course, entrepreneurship, industries, manufacturing, all kinds of things that are going on, that from reports, some of them beginning to close down because of either overtaxation or inability to access credit. In other words, there should be a framework, a policy framework that will incentivize the private sector to expand and to employ.
Finally, from me, quite recently, the Vice President, when he addressed the university students from the University of Professional Studies, he talked about, or he encouraged them, that instead of coming out of school and looking for jobs, they should create those jobs. And you've just spoken about the need to create the environment. Apart from the taxation bit and then the difficulty in accessing credit, what else could be done by government to ensure that the needed environment is there for such adventures?
It's quite easier for you to say graduates should create jobs. When they go to school for 4 years and are not taught how to create jobs, they cannot leave the universities and come and create jobs. It's not possible. So if you want them to create jobs, make sure your educational institutions are preparing them with the skills that are needed to create the jobs. I don't think that's what we're seeing in our institutions. Maybe with this new idea of converting polytechnics into technical universities, maybe these are the institutions that are going to provide the skills and the talent, the knowledge for them to create jobs.
Right, so that's for job creation and security at the 4th Kofi Annan Hammershold annual lecture held at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center today. We've done politics, security in the first 1 hour here on the program. It just hit 16 hours here on the Pulse. Now, it's remained one of the major tourist attractions in Ghana. The beautiful deer hunting expedition in the forest distinguishes this 1 week-long celebration from all other festivals in Ghana. However, the Abuacher festival, marked by the people of the Efutu traditional area in Winneba in the central region, has often been marred by violent confrontations between the two competing Asafo hunting groups. The situation is believed to have affected the popularity of the festival in the coastal town. But the chiefs of the area say they are working hard to restore the beauty of the festival. Joy News' George Vinay was in the town and has filed this report.
At a ceremony to launch this year's event, the coordinator and a member of the Abuachiri Planning Board, Nana Otubua Simpi II, told Joy News that the matter has been resolved. He assured that the police are ready to protect lives and property during this year's celebration.
The misunderstanding is a question of who is the chief of the area. Technically, like we're saying, we have two chiefs because they are all vying for the same position. And then the law would also not permit two chiefs holding one particular stool or position. So now what next? This is the case where you realize that any of the chiefs or any of them is trying to find a way out. Now the security agencies come in and they say, no, you sort out your matters and leave the Abuachiri alone. Don't mingle your chieftaincy dispute with the Abuachiri. So then the police realize that if one of them is trying to force his way because he feels he has the chief or whatever it is, no way. Please, we are saying let us delink. You see, let us delink Abuachiri from the chieftaincy matter. So if that is the case, then it means the security agencies and all those are prepared to make sure that people coming, their security is at stake. And for that matter, we want everybody to come here in peace. We want everybody to come hoping that he's coming to enjoy, the festivity. Nothing more, nothing less. So they have put all measures on the ground for these things to succeed without anybody coming to even have, say, a finger cut off. No.
The CEO of Nice Media, organizers of the festival, Dr. James Kofi Annan, says they hope to see over 1 million people attending this year's festival.
Abuachiri has been rebranded. We are expecting that the 1 million people who are coming will be buying from our restaurants, hotels, our brothers and sisters who carry wares on their head, those who sell pure water, ice water, achumo, ice cream. People will be buying, and so they will leave economic footprint here.
The event, slated for the first Saturday in May, will start with a cleanup exercise followed by a youth sensitization program and then the big deer hunting. George Yosin Vine's report for Joy News.
And I hope that the economic footprint you're looking for in getting people to buy the ice water will come to pass next month when the Abuachiri Festival comes your way. You're watching The Pulse here on the Joy News channel on Multi TV. Still ahead, the big question we're asking is that must politicians account for the number of children they have as they embark on their political campaigns? Well, the PPP thinks so. We'll hear from them on whether it makes any difference. Details on that and more here on The Pulse. Stay with us. We'll be back after this break.